Chamberlain, definitely something very heartbreaking. But, while we get those reports, because our second conversation this morning is going to be on that, let's have a conversation this morning on maritime security and other matters, particularly at the time that the Navy is 68. Joining us this morning is Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogala, who is the Chief of Naval Staff. He's right here in the studio with me. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you, Ayo.
Should I say happy birthday?
Yeah, thank you. That's good.
68 years on. How far so far?
Well, Ayo, the Navy is 68 today. 68 years is a lot, both in the life of a man and the life of a nation. And within that 68 years, we have grown tremendously to the extent where we are now, considered as one of the maybe the fourth largest navy in Africa, with a navy that is ready to defend the nation and ready to perform its statutory roles. That's how we have gone. Statutory
roles leads me to the question which I dare say a good number of people have no idea what the Navy really does. When they think about the Navy, they only think of water and ships.
Yes.
And that's it.
Yes.
What are these statutory roles? Let's use this opportunity of your birthday to tell Nigerians, what are the statutory roles?
Good. Well, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, vests on the armed forces of Nigeria the responsibility for defense of the nation from external aggression, defense of the nation's territorial integrity and sovereignty. This is the basic role which the Nigerian Navy performs in the maritime domain, which we call our military role. Then in addition to those military roles, the Nigerian Navy is also charged with other roles which we call them our Coast Guard roles or our policing roles. The Armed Forces Act 2004 expatiated on those roles, assisting and coordinating the enforcement of all custom laws of Nigeria in the maritime domain, assisting and coordinating the enforcement of all international and national laws acceded to by Nigeria, particularly in the maritime domain, and protecting the nation's exclusive economic zone to ensure that Nigeria, as provided in the international laws, is the only nation that have the right to exploit the resources within the exclusive economic zone. In addition to that, we're also charged with provision of aid to civil authority and also hydrographic surveying, nautical charting to provide information for mariners, among other roles.
Well, the one that catches my attention the most is that you protect.
Yeah.
And that protection also includes that of 90 trillion naira.
Yeah.
What do I mean? A 2017 estimation of Nigeria's maritime assets, from shipping activities to manpower engagement, the blue economy, and the rest of them, puts the entire value chain in the region of 90 trillion naira.
Yeah.
It is jeopardized by insecurity. I'd like you to ask you a question around the maritime security from two angles. First is, what's your collaboration with states along the maritime coastlines? And secondly, what exactly is going on in terms of the incursions that come from marauders who take on our crude oil?
Yes, that's good. When you talk about collaboration in the maritime environment, the maritime domain, of course, the maritime domain is one area where you cannot achieve more if you do not have partnership and collaboration. And that is why within our region, which is the Gulf of Guinea, we have a systematic method of collaborating with all the regional navies and coast guards in this region. We have the Yaoundé architecture, where we divided the region into zones, Zone E, Zone D, Zone, and so on. And within these zones, we have mechanisms whereby where there is infraction in a particular coastal state, and such ships that committed that infraction enter another coastal state, we have a mechanism to be able to get into those other states and arrest them. So we are firmly collaborating with all the states, all the coastal states within the region, and that is the only way we can move forward. Then in terms of the general maritime crimes within our region, these are things that they keep on evolving. And of course, you know that if you look at the psychology of crimes, the society where we are also part of what constitutes why people go into crime. And our duty as a Navy is to continue to combat them, which we do by putting our ships on patrol, by extending our surveillance systems so that we even track these offenders even before they get into the actual offense. And we've achieved some tremendous results in the process over the years.
Is it this collaboration that informed the engagement of a private security outfit? Or would you agree with those who think, oh, well, maybe it's because the Navy can't do the job, that is why the federal government had to engage private security outfits?
No, it's not because the Navy cannot do the job. Like I said, collaboration is key in the maritime domain. And of course, security, as it is today, is not being looked at from the point of view of the military alone. Security is a whole of society approach, whole of government approach. And when I say whole of society approach, we must key into the communities because they are the first source of intelligence. They are the first source of information gathering. So the way we collaborate with the private security is also the way we collaborate with the communities, which will assist us to do our job. So all these are areas where the government have found out that there is need for us to involve everyone with the intention of achieving our goal, which is reducing the incidences of maritime crimes. And that's why there are several private companies that are helping us to gather information, most importantly in the area of surveillance. There are areas where you really need community involvement. There are areas where you need local knowledge. And in those areas, that is where we feel that this are important.
How do you respond to those who say part of this collaboration is probably some of your men who also collaborate with criminals to steal Nigeria's crude oil?
Yeah, there's no way where you will not see bad eggs. But I can tell you here today that the Nigerian Navy, to the best of my knowledge, are made up of sincere and men of integrity. We've been in this system for a very long time, doing just the same thing, trying to protect the nation's resources. Once in a while, we have cases whereby a few individuals, mostly at the lower level, get involved in criminality, and then we deal with them appropriately. There is, in every 2 or 3 months, you find out some officers, some ratings are being tried for such level of involvement. But on a grand scale, the Navy is a clean and decent organization where we do not expect such to happen. Now, when you look at people collaborating, of course, it happens at different stratas. These people in the Navy are also part of the society. And once in a while, a few of them could maybe get involved. And then the most important thing for us is that we extract such people, deal with them appropriately to serve as a deterrent to others.
Well, forgive me for staying on that for a bit. 68 years is quite a length of time.
Yeah.
And those who have institutional memory can actually use it to advantage either of the nation or of themselves.
Yeah.
Now, I talked about collaboration the other time. One would expect that, of course, that collaboration is also with the communities, which is where this private security thing that you're talking about is coming from. But, you know, crude oil theft is an extremely costly and technical enterprise.
Yes.
It is not something small boys and girls would do.
Yeah.
So when you say it's only mostly people on the lower rung of the ladder, those who would argue with you that can those people actually have the kind of sophistication and the kind of resources that is required to take on such things? I know it's a difficult question, but I know it's something, I mean, people are going to ask you anyway. So how do you respond to them when such issues come up?
Yes, like you said, crude oil theft is a very difficult exercise. It might sometimes have to involve collaboration of even those who own the facilities. But to the best of our knowledge and ability, we've not noticed that on a grand scale. A few cases have emerged, which we have investigated and handed over to appropriate investigating authorities like the Nigerian police and the AFCC A few individuals have been tried. Some of them have been given appropriate sentences, and that is to the extent that we cannot say that there's collaboration at the grand strategic level, because the few cases which we have brought to the public domain, which have been arrested, have not pointed to any link to the level. But you know, generally in Nigeria, people tend to speculate, and these things remain in the realm of speculation.
You know, sir, I don't know how you receive the news when you hear that Nigeria's infrastructure has been attacked for one reason or the other. And you raised the issue of surveillance the other time, which is actually an extremely important one. So I don't know how you take it, the fact that because this whole surveillance thing was all Navy before now, before the government had to, bring in, some private security outfits and the rest of them. Would you prefer a revert to the old order? Because, as you said, that is the statutory responsibility of the Navy. So if it looks like, okay, the Navy is not doing it now, or cannot do it alone now, we have to engage some private security persons, especially at a time when the Navy is getting more and more resources to do their jobs. So there are those who would say, well, maybe the Navy is right now better equipped to do the job, and so we should terminate whatever contract we have with whoever else.
Well, like I said, security is a whole of society approach. That is the modern concept of national security. Yeah. You cannot achieve security using the military alone. And therefore, and even from the beginning, even when the Navy was there alone, as you said, Navy was never there alone. We had the Marine Police, we had the Civil Defense, all of us have been working together all these years. And I want to put it clear that even at that time, we was also collaborating with the communities. The chiefs in the Naval Delta, the traditional rulers, we've been collaborating with them. So it is not new. What is happening today is not new. And anywhere in the world, you have people collaborating to ensure that the national objective of protecting the maritime domain is achieved. So I am not an advocate of let it be only the Navy. If you look at our policing rules, use the word, the Armed Forces Act aptly used some words that shows you that there needs to be collaboration. You see, assisting and coordinating the enforcement of all custom laws in the maritime domain, which means that you cannot be alone if you are assisting and coordinating. Assisting and coordinating the enforcement of all laws acceded to by Nigeria. Of course, NIMASA is there. We are assisting them, we are coordinating with them. So I am not saying, and I can never advocate that the Navy should be there alone.
Okay.
We need all hands on deck.
I get that. And just as you said, the collaboration existed before now.
Yes.
But what would you have preferred as Chief of Naval Staff?
Collaboration.
The way it is now or the previous one?
The way it is now?
The way it is now, there's a contract with the federal government, but, contract with a private security by the federal government.
Well, it's not different because it's still collaboration. If there is collaboration and we're achieving our result, we're achieving the aim, that's what matters to me.
Okay. Now, you talked about communities. What are your findings, particularly? 68 years is quite a length of time.
Yeah.
But what have been your findings? We have just a few. What have been your findings about this whole insecurity, particularly along the maritime coastlines?
Well, if you look at our case, that's a Nigerian example, insecurity in the case of Nigeria. I think it has so many root causes. You look at issues of poverty, issues of environmental degradation, issues of the coastal communities not being empowered. I'm sure if you have a job to do, you will not enter the creek. You know the level of risk someone takes to enter those creeks to do what they are doing. If you pay me money, I won't go there to do that because anything can happen to you. Even while in the process of busting the pipeline, you can get consumed in the process. So it shows that they are doing it firstly as a form of desperation to survive, And also, there are some who are just doing it because of their criminal intent and criminal element. Of course, there are human beings who are born with such criminal intent. And those are the ones that we must deal with them appropriately to root them out. So the cases in our situation is multifaceted. You have the criminals who are just criminals. Then you have those who are lured into it because they think they can make a living. But we must discourage them and make them know that there are alternatives to what they are doing. So there are other ways they can make a living decently without engaging in such acts.
Okay. Now, how about, I mean, crude oil theft is not the only insecurity issue we have, right? How do you deal with piracy?
Yes, the issue of piracy, of course, you remember that in the past, Nigeria was listed as one of the most piracy-prone countries, and this had several implications. That ships coming into Nigeria will pay more insurance, what they call a war premium. And the implication is that goods that are imported in this country will be higher in the market, which increases the level of poverty, and so on and so forth. But with the effort of Nigerian Navy, in collaboration with other security agencies, and even the communities, and even the other stakeholders, we were able to checkmate the issue of piracy to the extent that as far in 2022, the IMB, International Maritime Bureau, delisted Nigeria from the list of piracy-prone countries. And since then, we've sustained that effort. Until today, Nigeria is not one of the countries listed as piracy-prone countries. This takes a lot of effort. Our ships are at sea 24 hours a day. At least as I'm talking to you now, we have over 12 ships patrolling the maritime environment. And you know what it means to fuel a capital ship to go to sea. We are doing this because we must sustain that fight. In addition to that, we have our surveillance system, which is monitoring the entire maritime domain, particularly outward towards the EEZ. And these are the things that we must sustain and we must improve upon.
Vice Admiral Ogala, as you said, I don't envy your job. No doubt about it. Now, you're 1 year in office already now. And
yes,
about 1 year in office now. How has it been?
It's been tough, I must confess. Like the challenges that we are seeing, when you are part of the system, you are not on top, you wouldn't see everything. Now I've been seeing the challenges. So much so that I hardly have time to sleep. But it is one of the things we are trained for. We've been trained to do this job and we are doing it. It's seriously challenging, but we are tackling the issues as they arise. You know,
one of the major challenges you probably have to deal with is that of your men. Yeah. When you're making every effort at the top, it would seem like one way or the other, you're not either getting across to them, or while you're dealing with some issues, some other issues come up from the field and the rest of them. So how do you handle those issues? What are the motivations they get? What are the encouragements that they get from time to time? And when these issues, when these backlashes, so to speak, come, how do you handle it? Because Nigerians just hear that, oh, the Navy did this, and then nothing else, is heard by them.
Yes.
How do you handle such issues?
Yes, the Nigerian Navy, that's why our motto is onward together. Onward together is that in a ship, we are all together. If, as a chief of naval staff, if I'm the commanding officer, if I'm moving in my ship, I'm there with the least rating. And whatever happens to the ship will happen to the rating, it also happens to me. Because all of us will either go down or will survive. And that's why we take our men as the most important factor of production. Of course, you know that the human resource is always the most important factor of production. So we are determined and we have been making effort to make sure that we do those things that will impact on the men. Starting from the issue of taking care of their welfare. And welfare has so many ramifications. Education of the children, that's why we have welfare schools. We have hospitals that treat our personnel free. We also have housing. It is an entitlement for every personnel serving in the Navy to be given free and decent accommodation. We've been doing that despite the shortage of resources, we've been doing that. And for me particularly, within this 1 year, we have made it an agenda that we must ensure that we increase our accommodation facilities by at least 70%, to ensure that 70% to 80% of our personnel are accommodated. And we have started doing that already in Abuja, in Lagos, in Port Harcourt. Everywhere where we have bases, we are doing that right now.
Well, again, I think congratulations. The Navy at 68 with you in office is in order.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And
thank you very
so much for being here this morning. Well, the strike is on. Will your men also be going on strike?
No. You know, we don't go on strike.
I just wanted to be sure.
We don't.
Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogala, Chief of Naval Staff, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.